Guys, for the replay gang, howdy. Jim's calling me. Let me text Jim. Sorry, I went live and I clearly wasn't ready. My Peterbilt's running a repower. Get out. Oh, yes, I finally got that fly out. So I hope he's okay. We'll see what he says. Trucker Q, how's it going? Howdy, everyone. Eric here, Driveline. Yeah, I'm woefully ill prepared to go live, apparently. So, but I need to kill a little bit of time. Okay, he says he's okay. When my phone rings and it's the driver of my Peterbilt, I'm terrified. Even though he's a good friend and I talk to him probably every day, I'm still terrified when he calls. So, I was going to do a live last night, but I ended up just sleeping, man. I finally got everything done on my truck. I picked up two used tires, really good tires, for, I think I paid $278 a tire, $278 or $287 a tire. If you guys don't know, okay, there's Jim. Bobtail with Wayne. Oh, did you already leave, Jim? Jim, if you already left to get that repower, I've decided I'm going to go ahead and leave too, because I got a threaded needle too. I'll explain that in a minute. Anyway, those who don't know, I only put used tires on my trucks. Now, I had this argument with someone 4 days ago, right when I got to the terminal, about tires, and I had him totally convinced within 30 minutes, because he's like, yeah, but if you're buying these 8 30-seconds or 9 30-second tires, don't you have to buy them every year? And I said, yeah, but I only have to pay under $300 a tire, and if something goes wrong out on the road, I'm only losing a $300 tire. I'm not losing a $1,200 or $1,300 super single. Because if something goes wrong out on the road, you're probably going to have to buy a brand new tire. But I don't want that to replace a brand new tire. So I had replaced the two front drives earlier this year, or sometime in the summer, I can't remember when. So I went ahead and got the back two tires. They weren't in like terrible condition, but I had two nails in both of them not too long ago that had to be repaired. Well, not too long, 4 months ago or something like that. And those repairs were really tore up. They were going to become a problem. So I got two tires, got my APU serviced. I felt really lazy last night and went ahead and paid $18. Y'all are going to make fun of me, steering wheel holder stuff, so brace yourself. I paid $18 in the express bay to get my fifth wheel lubed. Go ahead. Let me have it in the comments. The thing is, I have fifth wheel lube I've got multiple variations of fifth wheel lube. I've got the tubes of the red and tacky or whatever it is. I've got the spray cans of the red and tacky. But I figured, you know what, while I'm here, I'm just going to have them just lube the shit out of it, and just like birthday cake that fifth wheel plate. And I did. I didn't know until I saw it on the price list that you could even just go into the express bay just to do that. So I felt like a real lazy lame-o. There wasn't a line. So he goes, what can I do for you? I said, I'll just get my fifth wheel lubed. He goes, that's it? I said, yeah. He's like, okay. So, but I don't care. That thing's nice and freaking lubed. And I don't have to go back there and fight with a tube or a spray can. Got a recall campaign taken care of. I got some packages mailed that I had to mail. So Cody, if you're seeing this video, your package is on the way, and I put something unique in there for you. So yeah, got all that taken care of. And then my fleet manager called me today. Sorry, I had to get some nicotine on board, so this lip may seem a little swollen. But I called my fleet manager called me, and he woke me up. Jim, who's in here, drives my Peterbilt, had a killer load. Not necessarily for him. Too much time, not a lot of miles, but a killer load for me. And you know, we go back and forth. He and I work really well together. We try to make sure that his mile needs are taken care of. And by the way, last week he had 4,000 miles, which is crazy. Now, a lot of that was carryover from the week before, but he had 4,000 miles, which was awesome. But this load was going to Texas, and it was paying, I think, $2,500 for 800 miles. So when my fleet manager called and uttered the word Nevada, I was immediately like, bro, you need to start over. You got to start over. Like, this started off on a bad foot, bro. He's like, dude, I'm desperate. What do we have to do to make this work? Because they had a FedEx load they had to repower, and the FedEx load that they had to repower has to be repowered by a team. It can't be repowered by a solo truck. So there was a team that's on their way to the FedEx load to repower the FedEx load, but that team has a load that has to be repowered. And the guy who had the team who had the original FedEx load is broke down. So there's two loads that have to be taken care of: the FedEx load and the load the other team has. And the load the other team has is going to Nevada. He's like, really, like, Jim is our last shot. You know, he's like, we don't know how we're gonna deal with this. So he's like negotiating with me. So I'm going to throw in this, and I'll do this, and I assure you, I promise you, I won't try to send him to California after this load. We'll get him going east. We'll put him on a Red Bull load or something like that. We'll figure it out. And I felt like I had a strong hand, right? So I'm like, okay, well, while I'm thinking about that repower, because you're trying to take me off this, take that truck off this Texas load, let's talk about what's on the yard right now, because I'm at the terminal. Because I had a strong hand at this point. So basically, I got to pick whatever I wanted to get off the yard, because we were in negotiations, right? So sorry, Jim, I wasn't trying to use you as a negotiation tool. I was put in this scenario. I didn't ask for it, but I was going to take advantage of it. And he starts rattling off a few things, you know, and then one struck me. I was like, oh yeah, that right there. Put that on my truck. Like, let's go. Get that on my truck. Okay, now let's get back and talk about the repower. So it's going to work out. So Jim's going to do this repower for my Peterbilt. And I got this load off the yard. Now I'm surrounded by thunderstorms and 40-mile-per-hour winds. But I'm like, okay, I got a loaded trailer now. I'm not concerned about it. I don't got to sit here and wait, to fight everybody else for a load. I'm good. Then the dispatch comes through, and the load's 7,200 pounds. In any other scenario, I would be like, hell yeah, 7,200 pounds. But this is the one scenario where I actually needed some girth in that trailer. I need some weight. And it's 7,200 pounds. I'm like, that sucks. Because that ain't enough. So my original plan was to leave at like midnight or something and run that 6 or 7 hours tonight. And now I had to rewire myself and come up with a plan to thread the needle between these wind fronts. Because right now, if you guys look at the weather map, and I'll get to comments here in a minute, but right now this jet stream is basically shoving the hot air off the United States, and that's it. If you go look at a 2-week forecast for weather temps, like, it's over. The hot temperatures are over. So this squall line of storms is the jet stream just shoving that hot air right off the continental United States, and then behind it is no more hot air, which is awesome. But it's just crazy that the one time that I actually need a heavy load, or at least 30,000 pounds, it's 7,200 pounds. So I had to basically get my ass out of bed and be like, all right, we gotta do this. I need to leave at exactly 1,700, and I need to be 480 miles. I'm basically riding between these two wind fronts the whole night, and the only way I can do it is to leave at 1,700. Otherwise, I'd sit here all night and then leave tomorrow night, and I don't want to be at the terminal another day. I just do not want to sit here another day. Not in the cards. So anyway, hopefully that catches you guys all up. Let me try to get to the comments on here. Hopefully you guys are all staying out of the wind. I know there's like 3 tornadoes. I was just looking. There's 3 tornadoes, or 2 south of Texarkana and 1 south of, or 1 that was headed towards Little Rock. I think the one headed toward Little Rock may have lifted. It got kind of gnarly here in Springfield, but not as gnarly as they were making it look or seem. Eric, need to pick your brain about something one day, John Huntley. Maybe. Don't know if I can help you. I will try. Trucker Q, John Huntley, Jim, Matthew from St. Louis. What's up, man? D's sug on. I know you want me to say the full thing, and you've wanted me to say the full thing for like 2 years. I'm not going to give you. All right, I'll give it to you this time. Sug on D's nuts. I'll let you have that one. Finally, you've been trying to get me to say that for 2 years. Jacob, good morning from New Zealand. New Zealand. Jacob, I lived in New Zealand. I lived in New Zealand, bro, for about a little over a year. And my oldest son was born in New Zealand. My oldest son was born in Papakura, which I believe is about, I don't know if I remember. I mean, this was 2001, so I want to say like 70 or 80 kilometers south of Auckland. He now lives in Perth, Australia. So yeah, I loved it down there, man. I loved it. And back then, the U.S. dollar was trading like 3-to-1 to the U.S. or to the New Zealand dollar. It was awesome. Trucker Q, I have to come by the terminal to get my AP looked at. I think the belt pulley went bad on it. It's making a real bad squeal sound. It may just be your belt though, Trucker Q. Are you sure it's not just your belt? Because if your belt starts like that, you check your belt, and if your belt's missing a few teeth, that's enough to make it squeal. But usually squealing is just your belt going bad. John, oh, you can help me, but none of the nuts. Brad Brown, what's up, Eric? How's the family? How do you feel about Rockies taking U-turn on the highway? Not sure what you mean. I mean, look, there's parts of the highway where you're supposed to take a U-turn. In fact, there's a place south of Springfield, south of Branson. There's a truck stop down there called Wild Bill's, I want to say. That in order to leave that truck stop and go north, you have to make a U-turn on 65. You have to. But I mean, they have it's set up for it. So they have a left turn lane to make a U-turn on the 4-lane interstate. Is 65 an interstate? And then they have one of those big kind of curve shoulders on the other side where you can make a wide swing, but you still got traffic. You still got to be paying attention. Family's good, Brad. Jacob, you live in Auckland. Jacob, I did live in Auckland. I had a apartment in one of the high rises right across from Sky City Casino. when I first moved to New Zealand. Let's see. How do you drive without chains? Do you stay out of certain states? Yeah, Johnny, I haven't had chains or socks. I've had no traction control on my truck for 3 years. I do not go where chains are mandatory in the winter. It's not going to happen. I don't even go where chains are mandatory in the winter, in the summer. John Huntley, I lived in Sydney for 2.5 years. Wish I never left. It doesn't make me less American, but maybe we as Americans need to think like Australian. Now, I don't drink anymore, but I preferred New Zealand beer over Australian beer. Like Steinlager. Steinlager is a great freaking beer. When I lived in Sydney, if you were short at the corner store, the guy behind you picked it up without hesitation. No worries, mate. We as Americans have lost our values. Yeah, but how long ago is that? I wonder if it's the same. John Huntley, I refuse to buy chains or socks if I need that. I don't need to be there. Yeah, exactly. I have chains at home, but I don't want them on my truck. I had socks when I was driving my Peterbilt, but I left them in the Peterbilt for Jim. Johnny, what states are chains mandatory? Colorado, and then a whole bunch of Northwest states. John Halgren, I don't think any interstate highway allows U-turns, being a limited access road. Interstate, okay, so 65 is not an interstate. I'm not sure. Is it just, yeah, it's just 65. It's not I-65, right? I'm not sure. John Huntley, Sydney was 99, 2001. Yeah, so it may be a different world, bro. Because I first went to New Zealand in early 2000, and then came back and was working down in the Gulf of Mexico, and then I moved there in 2001. As a matter of fact, well, I was on a ship in the Gulf of Mexico on 9/11, and then my son was born in November of 2001, so I went to New Zealand right after 9/11. Right after 9/11, it was weird. Airports were weird. Everybody was weird, and was there for the remainder of 2001 and most of 2002. Johnny, chains are too heavy, socks are expensive. Yes. I just don't want to deal with it, man. Plus, it gives me a really, now they don't propose stuff to me that goes to Colorado or beyond, but if they did, it gives me a really easy out. Sorry, man, I don't have chains on my truck. Can't do it. I don't even have to try to argue. Davenport family, what were you doing over there? In, I believe it was 99. Let's see. I think it was 99. I had just gotten back to the States from traveling the world. I graduated in 97. I flew to London on my 18th birthday so I could drink legally, and I just backpacked around Europe and all that. So when I came back to the States in '99, I was working as a security officer at the El Dorado Hotel and Casino in Reno. And this gentleman came through. I don't want to say his name, but he was the owner of one of the three largest commercial dive companies at the time internationally. Like they cleaned the bottom of Prince Charles's yacht and all that stuff. And I got off work one morning and he was sitting at the sports book there in Reno, Nevada. And we proceeded to get shit faced together. And at some point in that, he told me, he was like, hey man, I really enjoyed the company. Listen, I'm going to give you a call and I'm going to invite you to go on a treasure hunt. I'm going to send you to learn to be a commercial diver, and I'm going to put you on this treasure hunt that I'm doing. And I thought this guy's drunk and, just talking out his ass. Cool dude. Amazing stories of world travel and all that. But I thought he's nuts. He wasn't nuts, man. Like 2 days later, he called. He was in Houston, a little town called Freeport, south of Houston. And he's like, hey, man, I'm going to send you to, I got a flight and everything. I'm going to send you to Australia. You're going to go down there and take commercial dive school, go through commercial dive school, and you're going to come out and get on this ship with us. We're going out and we're hunting treasure. They had a salvage site that was 160 miles off the coast. So it took about 16 hours by ship. And they had contracted a 110-foot earthquake research vessel. And it was old. It was called the Stanco Traveler. Old. I think it was 110 feet. And they converted it. They put a big A-frame on the back of it. They put dive chambers on it and bolted those down to the deck and converted it into a commercial dive operation. And went out there and 4-point anchored out there with the oil rigs. And we went down, we drilled holes in this coral reef, dropped dynamite down into them and blew the coral reef up and dug up this old ship. Now, it was amazing because at the time I was a kid, I had two options for how I wanted to deal with this. Option one was I could take a percentage of whatever they found, or option two is I could take a day rate. And the day rate was the same whether it was rain, wind, work, no work, whether you spent time in a dive chamber or worked on the deck. And at 110 feet, you could only be at the bottom for not very long. It was like 30 minutes or something. Then you come up and do like an hour in a chamber. And then you didn't work the next day. So I was working every other day. So as a kid, the day rate was awesome. I was like, I'll take the day rate. And I was on a ship for 6 months. So all I did was just rack up money because there's nowhere to spend money when you're on a ship. So at the end of that 6 months, I had all this money and I went to New Zealand, and the US dollar was trading $3 New Zealand. So that's how I ended up in New Zealand, because he was from New Zealand. And they ended up finding like some cannons and stuff, but no real treasure. They ended up finding a lot of historical stuff, but there was no real treasure. So I made the right decision. But that's how I ended up in New Zealand. Let's see. And then Davenport family, when I was in New Zealand, I also did commercial dive work, but it was like cleaning the bottom of 35,000 ton auto carriers, working on cofferdams, it's anything underwater, surveying pipeline, anything underwater. Timothy Turbo, what's up, man? How you doing? Trucker Q, Colorado, Washington, Idaho, Oregon are the states that require chains. John Huntley, Eric, can you go from current lease to work for a mini fleet? Yeah, you can. Because John Huntley, all you're doing is going from lease to company. That's the only thing you're changing. But if you go drive for a mini fleet from lease, you're going to have a lease fleet manager. You won't have a company fleet manager. It's quite a rig there. All right, we're getting close to me going to hunt this trailer down. I am going to have to drive in the rain, But I got those new tires back there. They got some meat on them. And this load only weighs 7,200 pounds. So it's going to be fun. Let's see. Johnny, Wyoming doesn't require chains. Gets new value. I don't know if Wyoming requires chains unless Wyoming requires chains. I don't know if they require them to be on the truck. I don't know. It's been a long time since I paid attention to that. Davenport, have you thought about writing a book, and why did you quit diving? I'm writing a book that I'm almost done with, but not about that. I'm writing a sci-fi book, a series. I'm like 72,000 words, and I'm aiming for 80,000. But not about that. The reason I quit is just it's too damn dangerous, man. Way too damn dangerous. Like I knew 2 divers, one of whom was a world champion spear fisherman who got the bends. He got the bends about a month before I left New Zealand. And then, and it was, a lot of it's just like not good. It's good paying work. All of it's good paying work, really good paying work. But like I had to dive in raw sewage. We had to drop these like 30-ton cofferdams down into a channel, or they use a crane. They were dropping these 30-ton cofferdams down into channels to redirect water so they could do work on the whatever you call them, channels. I don't know if channel is the right word, but so we had to go and bolt these cofferdams down, and it was raw sewage. Now you wear a suit and all that, and you got to get a shot in your ass that feels like peanut butter running down your leg. But there's nothing enjoyable about a lot of the work you do. It seems like it would be all sexy and attractive and exotic, but man, a lot of it's not. And plus I was just homesick. I was in New Zealand for over a year, and I was just homesick. I wanted to come back to the States. And when I got back to the States, I actually got an offer to go work for, I believe it was Shell, survey and pipeline, and potentially going into sat diving, which is a whole other world, like mixed gases and crazy shit. And the pay would have been astronomical, but it was six weeks on, 6 weeks off, I think, if I remember right. I mean, this is a long time ago, but I think it was 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. And I also had a job offer to go work in the Bay Area in California, doing salvage work and stuff out in the Bay. And I didn't want to get in that water. I didn't want to be 6 weeks on. The 6 weeks off part sounded great, but I just wanted to be home. Like I just wanted a normal, like I just wanted some time home. And so I got hired at Wells Fargo in their internet marketing department, and learned to write code and do web development and search engine optimization and all that stuff in the early days of SEO for Wells Fargo, and never went back to commercial diving. And that was in Reno, Nevada. Let's see, Eric, we need to have a talk. Let's see. Brad Brown, the Bears looking good. How do you feel about that? Do you feel about the Cubs? Well, the Cubs was devastating because fuck the Brewers, you know what I mean? That was devastating. But I was really surprised the Cubs even made it to a wild card spot, because the second half of their season, they really started kind of going off the rails. Now the Bears look good, yes, but they need to get Luther Burden and some more people involved. They're relying too much on basically two players on offense right now, Swift and Moore. He's got to learn to use a lot more weapons, and he's got to learn to be quicker out of the pocket. He's got to learn to be quicker to throw. If he can start getting that ball out of his hands quicker, and use more of his weapons, I think the bears are dangerous. Timothy Turbo, been in any hurricanes lately? No, sir, I have not. Adco, Wyoming won't fine you for not having them like Colorado. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, Adco. Yeah, because I think in Wyoming you will find scenarios where chains are required, but I don't think they're required to be on your truck at all times. John Huntley, Eric, I blacked out in the chamber once, never deep dived again. Oh, did you? I never had any trouble in the chamber. Man, John, that dive site out there in the Gulf of America, I guess it would be. Sorry, I said Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico at the time. We had a 4-point anchor, and you got this 110-foot vessel floating above this coral reef. Now, the top of the coral reef was 110 feet below the surface. Over the sides of it got real deep. So if you were to go over the sides, you'd really need to be on mixed gases. You know, that 110 feet, and we had a dive hat and everything, and an umbilical up to the ship. We had comms and all that, into oxygen, everything feeding into that dive hat. But what was amazing is that visibility was 110 feet. So on your day off, you could just throw a snorkel on, jump off the side of the ship, and just hover on top of the, the surface of the water and watch the guys work on the top of this reef, and just watch schools of barracuda and tuna. There were a lot of strawberry grouper down there over the reef. Big turtle, old huge turtle. You can just watch all this at 110 feet. It was amazing. Adco, unless it's active chain law. Yeah, Brad Brown, I agree with you. Oh, about the bears, yeah. But John, we didn't have to be in a chamber very long, because we were only down there, I think, like 45 minutes max. I think. Again, this is a long time ago. But I want to say by the time you got down there, you only were going to be working for maybe 30 minutes on the reef, because then you'd have to start pulling yourself back up. And then you do about an hour in the chamber. But it's weird. People don't realize that with that kind of pressure, even at 110 feet, with that kind of pressure, colors change. We had these light blue, like utility one piece over the dive suits that we wore, because you get beat up on the rocks and stuff down there. They were light blue, but when you got down there, they looked dark purple. There was like you'd have some flotation, there would be flotation things on the lines, or little foam things. They were bright yellow, but when you got down there, they were dark red. Like your pigmentation, everything changes. It's weird. John, I was labeled deep 26 of the coast of Melbourne. Oh, nice. We were at 200 and they told us the pressure was too high. We did emergency ascend to the top, briefly paused at 75 feet for pressure. Yeah, 200 that's deep. And that's not mixed gases, that's just oxygen. 200 is way too deep. I would think 200 would be mixed gases, unless you're just bounce diving, you know. Like that seems really risky. I knew a lot of guys that worked in Melbourne, in that harbor. My roommate on the ship was a South African diamond diver. So he was a diamond diver somewhere in South Africa. Hell of a diver, man, hell of an engineer. Like I was the least qualified dude on the ship by light years. Most of these divers had come from South Africa and Australia, New Zealand, and they had been commercially diving their entire lives. I was out of my league. I was, I did my best, and I got down there, and I could assist and, hand the guy tools or whatever, but I wasn't, these guys were engineers, you know what I mean? Like they'd spent their entire careers doing underwater engineering and salvage work and stuff like that. I was out of my league. John Huntley, we were mixed. Yeah, 65-30. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. $65-45. Well, it'd be 65-35, wouldn't it? But I get what you're saying. Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're doing just oxygen at 200 feet, you're you're playing a high risk game there, bro. Because like I said, 110 feet was really kind of the limit for just oxygen. But it was, if it had been 20 feet deeper, we'd probably have to go to mixed gases. But it was just, you know, never touch a suit again, no thanks. Yeah, that's how I felt too. You know, and a lot of that harbor work and just none of it was like the movies. Although that recent movie about the sat diver in the United Kingdom, that was good because that put it in that was real world shit. You know, there was nothing, they didn't try to make it look sexy or exotic. You know, it was just like, here's just the crazy psychotic side of this. This is what it is. So, you know, I remember swimming underneath an auto carrier in Auckland, New Zealand they had this hydraulic brush, and the brush was a wheel. It was a wheel probably about 3 feet wide that spun, but it had two handlebars. Like you ride it, you swim upside down. Well, your back towards the ground, and your front is towards the bottom of the ship. So you're facing up, swimming with this brush, and it's scrubbing the barnacles off the bottom of the ship. And it's just creepy, man. It's just creepy. Like there's whales and shit in that harbor. You can't see anything. There's so much sediment moving around. Props are the size of my truck. You can feel the hum and the vibration of the ship because it's got generators and stuff running inside of it. I didn't find any of the actual work enjoyable. It was hard, scary work. Like all of it. Navy Reef, I didn't, man. Brad, have a good night. Jim, you owe me big time. Sending you the rev. Oh, is it that good? See, I didn't even see. He didn't tell me the rate. He just said he would make it worth it. The things you see that deep dives, you really think what is actually out there. Yeah. Hopper, you ain't first, bro. Hopper, I needed you in Springfield, dude. You always rent a car when you're in Springfield. I needed a car. I needed to go take care of some stuff, and I didn't get to. Let me look, Jim. And then I gotta go. I gotta go find his trailer. Let's see. Oh, wow. Wow, really? Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty good rate. To go to Nevada? I didn't know it would be. I thought it would be less than that for sure. That's awesome. Well, that's good news, dude. Damn. So, got another really solid week. All right, guys, I got to go find this trailer, but thanks for joining me, helping me kill some time. See about doing a video tomorrow morning. And I told Jim that he could park at Mustang Ranch when he gets out there. I told him they allow truck parking at Mustang Ranch, and he immediately reminded me that both his wife and my wife track his location. So I was trying to find a loophole for him. Oh, man. And John, Auckland, there is Australia-owned Navy destroyer off the coast. They sunk. It was originally U.S. Navy-owned. No, it never got to do that. I did get in the water all over New Zealand. South Island, cold water down there. Most people don't realize the South Island of New Zealand is like not far from the South Pole, Antarctica. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Y'all be safe, make good decisions, always drive to thrive. I'll talk